And the next guest will also be invited to attend. He is a young, brilliant political mind. He is far advanced in his time. He takes pleasure out of knowing and understanding different political systems, including our own. He is also somebody from Sydney and has a passion to see Victoria change the tide politically. So could you please make welcome from Turning Point Australia, Jamal.
What a crowd. What a crowd. You know, I'm looking at least 200 fired up Victorians bustling outside of the doors. And there's another 1,500 online watching concurrently right now. Thank you, Rukshan. And thank you. And we've got that streaming on Rukshan's platform and the Turning Point platform. Thank you, Rukshan, again. It's an absolute legend. So, I think we all agree with the speakers. Dan's got to go. Tall guy, sorry. It's great. It's great we've got so many different parties. It's great that they're willing to work together. It'll be interesting to see how many rock up again on the 16th of November. But how are we going to help them? I think that the reason why things have gotten so bad in this country is the greatest thing about Australians is we're so laid back. But unfortunately, that's also been our downfall over the last 30 to 50 years. Until COVID came along. And this is the thing with Aussies. I'm only 25, but I understand that with Aussies, you can push them, and you can push them, and you can push them. But the moment you get that breaking point, it's all over. And they will not let it go. And the government has systematically been annoying different groups of Australians on COVID, and now they're moving to climate change. So Australians' apathy hasn't really done them any favours. So how can we arm them? How can we educate them about the political system? Because traditionally, I haven't really paid attention to politics. At least my parents haven't. They always voted Liberal. Some people always voted Labor because they had a trade. Well, this is where Turning Point Australia comes in. I consider myself a bit of a guide. There aren't many neutral voices in Victoria that can sort of be like, oh, look, this is how this works and this is how that works. I'm not a member of any political party. I try to work with all the freedom parties. And I try to help build their platform and get them volunteers and educate their voters. And so, Turning Point Australia, we've got a gift for you guys. We've got 4 projects, and some of you have already heard these. The 4 projects are educational graphics to inform Victorian voters about what political party is running on. That's coming out on the 1st of November. How to vote cards. These are like recommendations of how we recommend you vote. It's a great starting point, but you can always alter it. It's just a recommendation. Volunteer funneling, we're converting the Turning Point Australia audience into volunteers to help these wonderful parties, because the mainstream media certainly won't give them any press. And we've got a classified project, which I would love to tell you about. I will be telling you about it a bit more online on the 7th of November. But for now, all I can say is it's going to bring transparency. And I think it's going to be a game changer that may potentially actually get the entire Turning Point social media and possibly website banned. And I think when you hear it, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, you know. All right, educational graphics. I don't think it's an overstatement to say that all of these projects are game changers. They're all free, there's no paywall. We just want our country back. I think we can all agree. We've lost so much. I personally lost my job due to the lockdowns in New South Wales. I'm not from Victoria. And these educational graphics have really helped people grapple with what's going on. Now, the first graphic, very simple graphic, left to right, this is for the federal election. It roughly shows where the parties land on totalitarianism. So you've got the socialists on the far left, and you've got the more freedom parties on the right. And I know it's not perfect, but you get the general idea. You guys are a lot more informed, but there's a lot of mainstream Aussies who we didn't reach in the federal election. They don't understand where things land, and this is one of the really easy things to help them understand. You'll notice the QR code at the top left to help them find. I know you guys have PTSD from QR codes. This, as I said, this is for the mainstream people that went along with this. The QR code's meant to make them feel nice and welcome. It's a safe space, indeed. The second graphic is probably, it was the most useful one I found in the federal election. It's a policy matrix. So on the left, you've got all the different policies that I reckon you guys are really concerned about, like with freedoms, with defence, with woke education in schools, the lockdowns and all of that. And as you can see on the left, you've got this sea of green for the freedom parties that ran, the 10 or so freedom parties. And on the right, you've got all of these major parties and how they've gone about their policy makeup. I thought this was the best way to show the stark differences between the freedom parties, and you guys are absolutely right to say, why aren't you guys working together? So I'm on your side with that. I mean, look at them. They're in furious agreement on most things. And as you can see, there's the QR code again, up the top left. Now, for you guys in Victoria, we've got a very, very special graphic for this election. Victoria has a unique problem that we don't have in the other states. As you can see, that's the upper house. There are 8 different regions for the upper house. In New South Wales, we don't have that problem. I call it a problem, and you'll see why. The 8 regions segment you. See, in New South Wales, if you're in the north of New South Wales and you cast a vote, it gets added to the guy in South New South Wales that votes, and it's a lot easier to combine the votes. Whereas in Victoria, you're split up into these 8 different regions in the upper house, which makes it harder for you to combine your votes and work together. So what's been going on? Some people have been gaming the system. When you vote below the line, let's talk about that. You control your preference. You have to do a number at least 5 below the line for the upper house. But if you vote above the line, you're only allowed to put 1, and you don't control where that preference goes if that party doesn't get in. The party that you select controls it. And so this presents a bit of a dilemma for us. And as the sort of non-partisan neutral guy in the room, I thought of a bit of a solution for this. So parties, they submit their voting ticket, how they're going to preference above the line. They submit that on the 11th of November, a few days out from pre-polling. That becomes public either on the afternoon of the 13th of November or on the Monday, the day 1 of voting, pre-poll. My team will be working 24 hours to make sure that you guys have the information about where your preference is going, because 95% of people vote above the line. That's a problem. That means they're not controlling their preferences. That means that the major parties, even some of the minor parties, are taking advantage of your lack of knowledge to get policies done that you didn't ask for. Next slide, please. This is a concept of what the chart's going to look like. You've got the preferences on the left. You've got all your favourite freedom parties that are running. There's about 9 of them that I can see. Some of them are still waiting on registration. The VEC are being terrible about it. And you've got the major parties on the right there. The major parties, I've done a concept. This is just an example. You can see what they're sort of going to do. The orange is for the Liberal Nationals. We'd rather have them than Labor. You know, they're not doing a great job, but we'd rather have them than Labor and the Greens. The red is the Labor and the Greens, and the freedom parties are in green. There's a lot of them. This chart numbers from 1 to however many candidates there are, the preference of how they, on those voting tickets, have done it. You will know which party has messed with your vote and your preference, if you vote above the line, by this chart. And the reason I'm coming out with this now is because these parties have not submitted these charts yet. So I guess this is a warning from Turning Point. If you choose to stuff around with people's votes, it will be exposed on this, on the 15th of November, and people will see if you put some of these freedom parties below Labor or below the Liberals, there'll be a problem. And the great thing about the Turning Point Australia How to Vote cards is we can change them at any time. And yeah, look, as I said, Victoria lacks some neutral voices in this, and I guess the reason why I copped a 5 a.m. flight from New South Wales is because we do need someone to sort of guide us through this that doesn't have a dog in the fight. Yes, I'm from New South Wales. Yes, I recognise I have no right to tell you guys how to vote, and I won't be. The next project is the How to Vote cards. This is something that I've never been on the team for. I've got an independent team to do that. They did it for the federal election. And for Victoria, we have Victorians on the team that are going to be looking at that, and they're going to be advising, it's just a recommendation, how to do that. Now, these how to vote cards, I had a bit of dilemma. The Turning Point Australia audience is about 280,000 people. I thought, how can we weaponise this for the election? And these how to vote cards presented the best sort of outcome. On the left, you can see on the website, you put in your address and it spits out a how to vote card. How do you vote in the upper house? How do you vote in the lower house? Brilliant, if I may say so myself. Because what it means is people can see what our recommendation is, and because a lot of people, they have no idea how to preference the cards. They have no idea and how to do it efficiently. So this solves a few problems. It defunds the major parties. In the federal election, we got 250,000 downloads, 250,000 downloads, and your vote is worth $2.90. It's actually worth something. And that funding goes to the major parties, your first vote. Those how to vote cards, they help defund the majors at least $1.4 million. And this wasn't my achievement. Again, these are all just tools. You guys did that. For those of you that recognise me and you got these tools out there, you did that. I can't do anything without you guys. You did a phenomenal job. And that 250,000 download mark, that's a rock bottom minimum. That's all the ones we can track. There were some downloads where it appears a download, but someone would screenshot it and send it to a group chat of 40 people. We can't track that. We don't know what the upward limit of that is. So there are people on your side, there are people trying to help you, and the defunding of the major parties, where did that money go? It went to these guys. It helped them fund them for the next elections so that they can continually fight. These conviction parties, the problem is they've never had a longevity of strategy. I feel like Turning Point can provide that by providing this structured strategy so that we can have a longevity between elections. Because you've got to chip away at this, guys. Often the people that say we need change and we've had 40, 50 years of rot, they want to try and change it in 2 years or 1 year. I'm like, guys, this is going to take some time. You know, I know I'm young, but I can see that this is an effort. And that's why I haven't gone back to the construction industry, because I understand these problems aren't going to go away. One of the other benefits that these cards do is they have an inbuilt strategy into them. They have a strategy which gets rid of safe seats. What's a safe seat? Does anyone know of a lady named Nancy Pelosi? Yeah, well, of course. Isn't that funny? We know about American politicians. So she's the top Democrat in the House of Congress. She's a big deal over there. She wields a lot of power over Joe Biden. So the reason why she's been there for 40 years, this evil lady, is the fact that she is in a Democrat safe seat in California, blue as it gets. And they can't get rid of her because of this safe seat. What the Turning Point How to Vote cards did federally, let's take a seat like Scott Morrison's and Alex Hawke's. They were both sitting on a margin of like 20%, which means that their votes, when you get the final count, they had 70% of the vote. 70%. That's insane. How do you get rid of them? You chip away at it. Just because he's Liberal, I don't care. He was never going to lose his seat. We brought Scott Morrison's seat down from about 70% down to 62%. So we chipped away at that because in the next election he's within striking distance. A lot of the other seats where we had Freedom senators or Freedom members of the lower house, we helped them secure their vote with these how to vote cards. Also, we've talked about a lot of division in the movement in terms of there's too many parties, the preference flows don't work. Topher Field mentioned it before. This efficiently channels the votes. We guarantee you that on the how to vote cards, you will only have Freedom parties at the top and the major parties at the bottom, along with the socialists and all of them. We want to make sure that we're efficiently channeling the vote, because the Greens and Labor, they do it very well. 95% of their votes, they stick with each other. But with us, you know, we've got people putting the Liberal Party as number 2. I mean, what's going on, guys? Don't you want to give each one of these guys a shot and then go to the Liberal parties as a last resort? So these are votes in the pocket. You didn't have to hand out 100 how to vote cards. Our audience, they are efficiently channeling their votes through this. And if you're not happy with their how to vote cards, now maybe you want to go with this party, Freedom Party, over that one, just adjust it, no worries. But share it out, because there's a lot of normies out there, they have no idea about these specific voting cards, and they'll always put Liberal second or first. They need to know about this. And on top of that, it educates people about who's actually running and where they stand. So it's a very good baseline for that. The next one's the volunteer funnel. This is project number 3. Another problem, how do we get more people activated in parties? How do we get... In New South Wales, for example, we had roughly, I think it was 30 to 50,000 people that were members of political parties. That's a problem, because that ends up being 0.5% of the voting population. People in political parties, they pick the candidates, they pick the policies that parties run on, and they pick what kind of messaging they go with. If we're not infiltrating all the parties, then how are we going to try and get better results in this country? So in New South Wales, what was happening, it's better now, we had 0.5% of the voting population dictating policies, who's going to run. No wonder it's gone so woke. The lefties fight so hard. I mean, you've got to hand it to them. They're diligent. They just don't give up. And so we're just getting started. And this is the thing. We can do it. I mean, it's worse than the 1% ruling over us. It's the 0.5%. That's what's going on. The volunteer funnel is something that is really useful. That's an out-of-date graph. I'm not sure if we'll end up helping the Libs or the Nationals in New South Wales because of some legal compliance issue. Apparently, we might have to send it via HQ, and I'm worried that they won't send those volunteers directly to the candidates that actually are in those electorates. How does this volunteer funnel work? I should probably explain that. What is, you go to the website, you fill out a very simple form, your name, your number, your email, all of this will be private, and your electorate. And this email gets sent to 9 parties that you pick, not these parties, these are the federal election ones, 9 parties that you pick that we've partnered with. You can select multiple, and it gets sent to them as a Turning Point Australia email. Now, why is that so good? These guys can't get coverage. These guys don't have the funding to pay someone $200 a day to stand at a polling booth. They have to rely on people of conviction to stand there and hand out how to vote cards, to put up posters. This is a game changer. I think this will really help us. And my warning to you freedom parties, is these people, they can select more than one party. So if you don't get onto it, and if you don't message them back, they might go and help one of the other freedom parties. So just, it's good. Healthy competition is great. Love the free market. And the last project is classified. I don't like doing this. I really don't. But I have to do this because I want the pin to drop at the right time. I guess what I can say about it is it's going to bring transparency, it's going to be a game changer, and it's going to be something that we roll out for all of the other states and all levels of government. It's going to bring transparency that we've never had in this country before. And all it does is take public knowledge that most of us are too lazy to look up. I personally am too lazy to look it up. I've got some great volunteers that are helping with this, and they're going to they're going to bring it to you guys on a silver platter. So what are the conditions for success this election? Is Dan Andrews going to win? What's the point in trying? I hear these questions all the time. Do you mind coming to the mic? What do you have to say to people when they say, Dan Andrews is going to win? What are we going to do? There's no hope.
I look at them and I tell them there is hope. There's always hope. You just got to find it. And sometimes that hope is actually putting good, freedom, party, people in the Senate. Because you cannot explode the beast that we as Victorians have neglected, because it is us as the voter that have neglected our responsibility to understand how our system works here. We created this beast, and now we need to dismantle it, but you can only do it one step at a time. And one of the first things to do is put good people into office. And it's a time to unite. Now, Joel's just asked me how many I think we need to get into the Senate. If we can take a Freedom Party representative, such as Morgan, such as Topher, well, whoever is running, okay, into the Senate, okay? If we can get good people like that into the Senate, and they take a seat off the Greens, off Labor, off any other party that sides with them, then we stand half a chance by getting at least four senators into Parliament.
Sorry, we call them members of the Legislative Council, just that's the upper house.
That's
we
correct.
call it Senate because it's easier for people who are uninitiated. It's bad enough we've got a different federally and state.
So I'll give you an example. In the southeastern metro region, for the Senate seat in Victoria, we have people like Morgan C. Jonas who's running, amongst other people. So you have 6 senators that can get elected in that particular region. One of them is David Limbrick, and another one that was in there is Adem Somyurek. Now, he got in by a very small margin, courtesy of Glenn Drury and the preference whispering. Now, I think that seat is actually quite winnable. I think a freedom-loving representative can actually be elected and take that off Adem Somyurek. And that can be the start, a starting point. If we can do that in a number of different seats where Labor, Greens and other Labor Greens sympathising parties, and those seats can be taken off them, then yes, we need about 3 to 4 senators actually in there. And then it doesn't matter whether Daniel Andrews wins again. It doesn't matter whether or not Labor gets in again. What matters is that no matter who gets in, including the left of centre Matthew Guy from the Liberal Party, okay, it doesn't matter who gets in, they'll be held to an account.
That's right. It puts the brakes on. It puts the brakes on. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't see why you guys can't get a good result. I see you guys fired up. I see you guys making a massive difference in this state. We're giving you all the resources so that there's no excuses at all. You have everything you need. I know many people from New South Wales are going to be driving down to help you guys out. And I hope that, even if it turns for the worst, we've got open arms for you in New South Wales and Queensland. If I may say so myself. And the good news is, almost done, in New South Wales, we already have a slight shared balance of power. And it was very helpful in the last couple of years. We are probably going to increase that even more between some of the freedom parties like One Nation and the Liberal Democrats there. And I do believe the UIP are also running there, but unregistered as well. That's right. Thank you, Babbitt. And we have a genuine chance at turning New South Wales into a Texas. The problem is why Queensland we can't do that is because they don't have an upper house, and I've got a plan for that. I think we need to bring back the upper house in Queensland. But in New South Wales, if some of you are thinking about moving after this election, and if it turns for the worst, there's a backup plan. There's always a plan B. But as you can see, I'm not holding back. We're rolling out 4 or 5 different projects. Sorry, the 5th project is we're training up... Absolutely. So we're actually training scrutineers as well. Project number 5, which I forgot to announce, is secure the vote. And how do you do that? Anyone that says to you, it's going to be rigged, it's not going to work, your votes don't count. First off, just say, all right, who's worse, the federal AEC or the Victorian Electoral Commission? And then ask them, if you're so elect about the voting system, why don't you volunteer as a scrutineer? Here's a form. You know what I mean? Why don't you do something? And you know what? A lot of people, I do not underestimate the power that the American culture has over Australia. Yeah, I have PTSD from the 2020 election. I wish Donald Trump got in, I do. And there was an element of the steal there. But look at how far they've come. despite all the things that have happened. They fixed up voting rights in Michigan, in Arizona, and Wisconsin, three of the swing states they need for the next election in the midterms in a week or so. I can't wait to see what happens. 92% of the Trump-endorsed candidates in the Republican Party, they're winning their candidates. People like Carrie Lake, if they went through 2020 and they managed to come out of it even harder than ever, why can't we? In Australia, and this is the thing, guys, you want some brutal truth? I'll give you some brutal truth. America, the UK, they see us as an outpost. I talk to many of them over there. They see what's happened in Australia. They're like, oh, it looks like Aussies just, they're the children of prison guards in the convict camps. This is what they think of us. They're like, what happened to the Crocodile Dundees? Where did they all go? There's always a plan B. We're going to fight back as hard as we ever have before. And if we're not successful here, we keep on fighting. New South Wales, Queensland, we keep on going. I'm not going anywhere. You guys aren't going anywhere. I can see you're made of something stronger than steel. And I think we can get a serious result in Victoria, and New South Wales. New South Wales is a different story. We've got some excellent leaders there. See, the thing with New South Wales, just an educational moment. This is a brand ad for New South Wales. We don't have, in the upper house, with the members of the Legislative Council, that's what they're called, it's staggered. When you get in, you're in for 8 years, not 4 years. In Victoria, you guys abolished the 8-year term. And not only are they in for 8 years, but half of them go up for election in the 4 years, and then the other half go up. So in the last election in 2019, we got good people elected like Mark Latham, Rod Roberts from One Nation, and someone from the Shooters, Farmers, Fishers. So we're already a few up. We've already still got the balance of power. We're already starting ahead. And if you look at the federal election results and how people voted, we're on track to retain that balance of power because Labor's going to win in New South Wales. And I'm not saying if. Labor's going to win in New South Wales. But it doesn't matter because we have the balance of power in the upper house. They have to come to Mark Latham. They have to come to the Shooters, Farmers, Fishers. They have to come to the Liberal Democrats. Hopefully John Ruddock gets up. That's what we're trying to do in Victoria. That's what it looks like. And that's how we're going to make a change. Thank you guys so much. You're a legend. Thank you to Rob Costello. Rob, where are you? Where's my South African friend? Stand up, please. Thank you so much. He was on the sound. Thank you for that. Thank you, Rukshan. Thank you to the 1,500 people listening online. Please give it a share. Please get it out there. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll hand you over to the host. Thank you very much.
Thank you to Joel from Turning Point Australia. Now, before we open